Live! Hey! Welcome to the first episode. Arya, so happy to have you here. Powerful. No, I think I talked to you about starting a podcast, year and a half ago. You actually went and did it for real.
For reals. And we've done a bunch together.
We've done a bunch together.
Released a few, but done a bunch.
And so I just, I thought, man, I'm losing too much ground on you. I need to gain it back. So
what made you? Yeah, I remember. Why do you want to do a podcast? Yeah.
Because every time I sit down and I talk about all this shit, with you and with others, all the relevant shit to our lives, it helps out a lot.
Yeah.
It helps out.
To shed and process. Yeah.
To shed your shit, and that's been really helpful. And
Right.
I think, well, fuck, we own a media company, and we have the ability to produce these awesome weird videos. You decided to have this background.
This is so we're in underwater right now,
Yes,
and this is like fishes and stuff.
yes. So why did you pick that? How did that make? Because I asked Arya, all right, pick a background that kind of explains how you feel or how you want to. Or no, I just asked you, what would you like to have?
Well, it's just a feeling of serenity. The deeper down you go, and because on the surface of the ocean is waves, and it's affected by climate and all those things. But like, you imagine being like a seaweed, just rooted at the cliffs under.
A seaweed.
Yeah.
What kind of seaweed?
It's like the kind you have for snack.
So you want a seaweed? You want to be a seaweed, and that's what should? How do you be a seaweed?
It's just imagine being a seaweed.
And that's all we have. No, that's
the boringest thing.
Yeah. No, okay. So, all right. So,
what's the most boring thing?
what's the most boring thing? Wait, but all right. So, but basically, it's what we go with the flow. How would you describe that ocean? The power.
Yeah, I mean the flow, the currents. There's so many, and the different depths.
Metaphor for life.
Yeah, right. I mean, you just find yourself at the proper depth in order to achieve what you want to achieve. Like what is it that you want to achieve?
What depth are you at?
The proper one.
The proper depth.
Yeah.
That's all
right.
Yeah.
Right. Because
you've been washed ashore. Right? How long are we gonna go with this analogy? All right. So the topic you wanted to do, and which I thought was great, you came up with earlier. What's the topic? Tell the people. What's the topic you wanted to address?
The topic.
Or the concept, I should say.
I was gonna say flow. You mentioned aging.
What?
It's related. Yeah.
What's it all
about?
Yeah, what's it all about? So, what's it all about? Lay it down.
It's about being in the moment, living your life in real time, and having, appropriate plans or whatsoever for the future, and like trying to learn from the past, but like having a dominant tone of gratitude and generosity in the present moment. Like, that's what you can control. That's what makes the most difference.
All right, yeah, but what, how does gratitude help me, How does it help me? How does it do it? How does it do it? What does that mean, I've heard that, but what does that mean? What does it physically mean for you?
When you first wake up in the morning, what's your first thought normally?
Fuck. No. No, I think I'm just dreaming. I'm coming out of a dream. I'm shedding reality. I'm coming back, and I have very few thoughts. I more have images, you know what I mean? Images and moods and things from the past days, or the forward days, forward fears, or past dealings. Like, I think in sleep you deal with a lot of fear and a lot of projections about what you should, overcome in the future, right? And then, you make this transition into reality.
Yeah.
So I have too many thoughts in the morning. Too many, but it's more like imagery. It's more like moody imagery, shit like that. Yeah.
So okay, here's the experiment. If you were to like say for the next 6 months, for example,
yeah.
And you were to begin with the same thought that would have the greatest value to your work and your relationships, everything. Like, is there a thought or a tone, feeling that if you kind of activate that in the morning, it would make the most difference?
A thought or a feeling?
Yeah.
And well, I guess I'm supposed to say gratitude.
I guess it's an intention, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's what I mean. It's
Yeah.
yeah.
Like, because then you could wake up and what do you do? What's a good method for that though? Because if you're not used to it, you're not going to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like you can say that, but how do you? What? You got to have some
feeling it in the body. Yeah, like in the morning you wake up and like some mornings I just wake up and like trying to think back on the dream I just had or like what happened yesterday or what's going on today. But most mornings when I get in the habit of like waking up and just saying thank you.
Thank you.
To this breath, these two eyes, and just this body, and just feeling myself in bed, and with that feeling sort of like flooding my being, And when I roll out of bed with that effect, I feel, and like over time, it just says you can like
it builds momentum,
and that tone begins to take shape,
and it begins to permeate the rest of your life, right?
Yeah, and it becomes second nature. It's riding a bike,
So it's like a mood bike.
Mood bike. 2 4-letter words. Yeah.
Moon bike.
Moon bike.
No, mood bike.
Mood
Okay.
bike.
So, all right. So you have your mood bike like pretty well oiled by this point.
Bike.
Do you feel like you're doing that every day? Because this is what you and I talk about a lot. Is like, do you really implement it? And how when you're caught in a rut, when you you go off your bike, you fall into the ditch. Some old lady comes into your path, and you hit her chicken. Like yeah. So, but you feel at this point you're pretty well oiled, and that's what you're doing. I don't know. That's the weird thing about the internet and people is that you never know how many people know about your friends, right? You kind of assume everybody does, but you're doing basically mental health, not coaching, but you're doing therapy essentially.
Yeah, therapy, coaching, psychological consulting, doing just helping people level up their well-being and their effectiveness. Yeah.
Like BeeNow.
BeeNow
is the company.
Yeah,
and it's in Chengdu,
based in here.
And I remember asking you this, but you've seen quite a few people now. You've got quite a few clients, and you've done a lot of talks, yoga sessions, meditation sessions, a bunch of other stuff. And have you seen any patterns now that people should either like address in their, like you think pretty common advice is this gratitude thing, like people generally need to have more gratitude because that will allow them to uncover pieces of their life that they haven't.
It's a soft skill, I mean, when you think about like how you feel about your relationships, it really affects how you feel. I mean, right?
Yeah.
Like sleep, exercise, diet, and who's around you, like, right?
Yeah, you said a good quote. I don't know if it was your quote or not, but you said you're as healthy as you feel, and that always struck home with me. I was always thinking about that quote and thinking that I should implement, or I should not implement it, but just judge myself based on that. Like how good do you feel right now?
Moment by moment, like right now, yeah, like
right now. I had a sore throat yesterday, and I didn't feel very good. You know what I mean? But then I realized, all right, well, I'm also unhealthy right now. I know I'm unhealthy. It's affecting my mood. It works like the opposite way. Like if you're unhealthy, you're just not going to feel very good, right? So,
what helps take the edge off?
What helps take? I mean, cocaine. No, I'm just kidding. No, I would say, what takes the edge off? I think physical movement. I think just stretching or going skateboarding or do anything outdoors. Do some hiking. Hang out with friends, play in a band. Name it. Name it. Just something where you move. Yeah. Or music. If it's music, then if you're playing well, like if it feels good, like if you're jamming well and you're moving forward. But what do you think about this though? Because obviously, optimally, you're as healthy as you feel. So if you don't feel good, you can tell you're not very healthy, right?
Right. I mean, when you're sick, you just feel congested, or like if you have an ache, you're like, what is your optimal state of?
Here's my question. Baseline, I think, is an interesting topic. Psychological baseline, I think, is some concept that I think, because I think most people feel at a baseline which is too stressed out, where they don't acknowledge that their actual internal operations are all fucked up, and they've just normalized it. So
Emotionally which can lead to burnout, is that what you mean?
Even physically, like you might just get used to being kind of tired and stressed out all the time, and that's your normal. So you might define normal as kind of like, oh yeah, I'm pretty healthy.
Normal, what's normal? Right.
But instead of feeling like, no, I feel great. Like I feel really good. Like this is, I'm feeling great right now. I feel amazing. How many times do you really hear people say that, right?
I feel amazing.
You know? Do you?
I mean, honestly, recently, like this past month, a lot of things changed, like just for the better, you know?
Yeah.
So I do feel, and it's a relative thing, isn't it? Like,
yeah.
If I compare where I was last year, same time, like, yeah, it's a different flow of being.
Different flow of being.
Yeah.
Right.
And yeah, to the point of like aging. Like I feel like you can choose how you want to age. And that's by mood. If you can effectively regulate your mood,
right,
you're tuned enough to your inner being, your physical sensations, you know, that's telling you how healthy you feel, you know, around these people or around this diet or around, like, you know, you can kind of play the piano around this rhythm. And yeah.
That's sweet, man. So you're playing the piano of your life's rhythm. Nice. Awesome. No, so what do you think is, what's it all about, man?
It's all about.
That's what it's all about, right? Yeah. Playing that rhythm, playing that piano. All right, so the other, I had two warm-up questions, basically, I sent you to think about were, one, how would you describe your life as if your life was a movie? Like, what movie would you compare or, you know, describe your life by?
Okay, this kind of connects with what you said earlier too, which is there's a movie called I mean, I don't know if it always, but it's a movie called The Waking Life.
Waking Life. Yeah.
And it's kind of a cool movie. It's kind of the cinematic like cartoon overlay on these characters who have dialogue, and like it's just like kind of capturing different narratives throughout different levels of society, from about like science to social issues to like personal relational things, like, and it's just this composition of a cool movie, you know, and the whole feeling of it is this main character that's going through these storylines and like through a waking life to become more awake to his life, right? And yeah, and like the whole feeling is like he's listening, like most of the time in this, throughout the course of this film, he's just there listening to the conversation, and every once in a while he'll ask a question, or every once in a while he'll like have a feeling he really wants to get out, and like I think you mentioned earlier in this conversation was like what helps people or something, I don't know, but yeah, this listening is such a core part of all this. Is like,
how do you do it?
Yeah, like to actively listen. I mean, you're really good at it, where you just basically just repeating what the other person says, like that. Yeah. It has this mirroring effect. Right? Yeah.
Well, we talked about that before, where it's very helpful for yourself and for others to hear you mirror their ideas, like kind of restate their ideas in a way, because that's why hanging out with other people is useful in a way. Is just to mirror yourself back to you. If you're just trying to talk to yourself about everything, you really have nothing to compare that to, and you don't have anybody keying in on the main points of what you're saying, right? They're not giving you they're not giving your words any weight. Right. So I feel like, and it's built into me, I do it naturally, so right?
Keying in,
triangulating, you know, but only two. Like in a binary fashion, but that's fine. But yeah, you know what I mean. Like, you know what I mean. So, yeah, I love shed reality. No, dude. This is,
repeating and resonating.
Resonating.
It's such a
Shout out to
it's kind of like you asked like what helps lube up people's
what lubes up
people's engines like
right.
the conversation,
right?
It gets lubed up when people are listening, you know.
I know. Usually by beer.
Beer is a good lubricant.
Alcohol, social lubricant, right? So.
And like at the end of the day, like if you just spend the entire day, just your intention is to listen well. Like just a day to just listen, for example, you know?
What has that taught you? What has that given to you?
I've learned that there's a lot I don't know, and and like the brain's ability.
Like what? No.
Everything, yeah.
Just everything, yeah.
Yeah, like a lot of that's going on in my head is just all a work in progress. But sometimes we're good at deceiving ourselves,
right.
thinking that what I'm thinking and judging
right.
is the absolute reality, or so what someone else is thinking as well, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think we're really good at that as like human beings, and I think we're experts at self-deception.
That's a good point. That's an important psychological sort of trope in a way.
It's deep insight, yeah.
It's a deep insight, and it scares the fuck out of me. You know, because there's nothing more insidious almost than you playing tricks on yourself. Or I really don't like feeling things that wasn't not that I wasn't meant to feel. That are fake.
Or not fully yours.
They're not fully mine, that I'm not fully...
That, yeah.
Not that I mind the lack of control necessarily. Right. That's not always a bad thing.
How do you discern?
How do you discern?
Between what's your feeling or...
I think you look at the trigger most of the time. Most of the time you look at the
trigger.
The source is one thing, but the trigger is more important. The trigger is more important. Yeah, an example is commonly if you have a relationship with somebody and you realize that the way you're treating them was set off by something that you've done with other people before you, right? It's a common pattern and or trigger. It'll, for example, let's say you're like a really neat and tidy person, and your roommate,
right,
whether it's your girlfriend or not, or boyfriend, whatever,
gay lover,
gay lover, whether it is or not, if they make it messy and then you start shouting at them or something. Or if it pisses you off, if it gets you in a bad mood,
right? That's the trigger.
Right, it's a trigger. It might not be you, but you have to decide whether that trigger was yours or not, whether you agree with it or not. If you agree with the central source of that,
the root cause,
yeah. If you know why, if you remember why, and like, yeah, I decided to be this way because I need boundaries. Right. That's different.
Because when I was a kid, I didn't have that.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I didn't, my father came into my, my room without telling me. It all comes from childhood, man. We all know that. Like, everything comes from your childhood, the way you were.
How would you describe your childhood home?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
Childhood home. I would describe it as being a. Like, I had one childhood home until I was about 12. And then another one until I was like 20. So different formative years. But both were pretty idyllic, I would say. I lived on an island, but it was like a weird freshwater island in Minnesota, in Duluth, Minnesota. And there are giant fish in the lake. But the lake's the largest freshwater lake in the world. So you have Lake Superior. Lake Supreme. Lake Supreme. Man, that would be great if it rebranded. Lake Superior. Idyllic, man. It was great. We had a beach, but winters were cold as shit. Absolutely.
Would it freeze?
Minus 35. Yeah. Lake would freeze over. If it froze the whole way over, you knew it was really, really cold for a long time.
You guys ever fish?
Fished a lot.
Yeah.
Fished a lot on a lake, and Minnesota has a ton of lakes. A lot of lakes.
So you carve out a little hole and do fish.
You can carve a hole. You can go ice fishing.
Ice fishing. Yeah.
Ice fishing.
You know Mitch Hedberg?
Yeah.
This comedian.
Yeah.
His line is like, you know, when people are fishing and then they catch the fish and they toss it back in. It's like, why do they do that? It's like either they want to eat it or you try to make their fish be late at something. And then the fish, they arrive and the fish are like, why are you so late? Show us your lip.
Dude, that's great. I love that, man.
So fishing and childhood home, and we're talking about
well, why did you ask that? What's
our
childhood?
habits? So our adult sort of habits
Yeah.
stem from childhood experiences. Yeah.
Generally, I mean, and then you can kind of see even the people that you're attracted to will exhibit things that perhaps more of your childhood side enjoy, right? You know, like if you're
this is a huge topic. Yeah,
this is that. I mean, that's a giant topic. So we should probably not talk about it. Take too long.
Here's the thing. How much time do we have?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I was thinking these podcasts should be like 20 minutes long or something like that.
Okay. So here's the thing. Okay.
Yeah.
So childhood. I think this is
We should try to keep them clipping. I think that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Because I like listening to long podcasts, but I don't have the time to make live podcasts.
Yeah.
Right
20
now.
minutes. Yeah.
So I think like 30 minutes. I don't really care, but it's just, you know, it should be clipping. Clipping along.
Okay. Is this something we want to talk about?
No, what were you saying? You were just saying something.
I feel like this is a thing that everyone can relate with, which is the journey from childhood and adulthood.
The journey from.
Yeah, there's the integration. Because we all have an inner child, and sometimes we trap or stifle, and you know. And so, like we said, when you can let loose and play music or just go out hiking, like when you have that time to yourself, it helps you recharge. Yeah?
Yeah.
Is that how you would say it?
I mean, I think so.
Yeah.
For sure. If you ever go skiing for hours on end, you get back, you're like, oh man, this feels great. Like, oh, peel off the clothes, you know, wet clothes, and you're just like, you know, those are things set in your childhood, you know, those habits, those understandings of your body, and what's crazy is a lot of people didn't have that. I mean, obviously in China, like there's basically no one goes camping on a regular basis. But even back in Minnesota, some people had never gone camping too, that lived in the big city, which is crazy. It's crazy. Like, how can you not have that any connection with nature? That's daunting to me.
Connection with nature.
Because I can barely take living here because there's no like big mountains like right here or big lakes right here that I can swim in. So I can barely take living here in that way. You know what I mean? But it's such a hustle and such a fun kind of vibrant city that, all right, it's worth it. But yeah, so childhood to adulthood, you think there's something there? I think there completely is. I think that's the key to a lot of shit. So how would you begin as a as a coach, as a hey therapist, as a therapist? What should people know about themselves or try to know about themselves from their childhood based on what you found out about yourself in your childhood? What should people try to identify as sort of, I don't know, key indicators of?
I mean, looking at yourself from a developmental perspective, from like, you know, because the brain goes through stages of development. Like, it's not the adult brain is not fully developed until like, for men, for example, until like after age 25, the forebrain is fully developed. And that's where like emotional reasoning and self-regulation, those kind of things come into fruition. And so like a baby doesn't have the capacity to self-regulate their emotion. That's why they're so dependent on their caregiver for that aspect of themselves, to understand, oh, I'm crying, or I feel this or that. And so that relationship between a baby and a caregiver is like, it sets the template into adulthood, right? So understanding yourself from that point of view. For example, when I was 3, my parents divorced, my mom left. So this feeling of abandonment, right, was in me like throughout my adulting, right? And then so 5 years later, luckily, she comes back and takes me as my sister to America. So that was like winning the lottery, right? But it took like years, decades to like, because I went through, you know, social like anxieties and depressions, like low lows, you know, not knowing why. And like the people I talk with today, you know, for therapy and coaching, there's emotions they feel they don't know why, right?
Right.
And so for me, it was finally come to the point where these early experiences of like, you know, the tension between mom and dad and like her leaving, like that had an effect on me. And once I realized that, then I can healthily process this conversation within my body, you know. And having that attunement, you know, I feel is kind of the key to kind of becoming a wholer person, you know.
Does it feel like you got some kind of touchstone, or you got some stronger grip on reality like after that?
Yeah.
Something like that?
Yeah, I mean, I just feel more in control of how I feel within myself.
Right.
You know, and not that I can control everything, but I can, like I said, like wake up in the morning and feel gratitude, appreciation.
You can decide that that's your...
Yeah, you can have a heightened feeling of appreciation. I think that's in everyone's control.
Right.
Or it can be brought into.
I feel like people just... I feel like people would hear that and be like, I can't do that. Like, it sounds nice. This is what I think people think. I know people think, you know, some people.
You see people in your mind that would think that.
I feel like I'm fairly perceptive, you know, and I can tell how people feel about things. And I feel like people hear that and they're just going to not register that that's an actual possibility. Do you know what I mean?
Possibility of
feeling that way when they wake up. You know, I think some people feel like shit. You know, and I see it. I'm like, all right. Yeah. How can you take a deep breath? You know what I mean? How can you take a breather? So
a morning routine.
That's the power of the child adult kind of connection. Like if you treat that child part of yourself or resolve some part of that childhood memory as it is functionally, right? A memory of a feeling or a memory of or processing, understanding why your mom, you know, abandoned you.
Yeah, just allowing yourself to feel more and without judgment.
Without judgment.
With compassion.
Right.
And also with a level of discipline. So like in the mornings you wake up, like how do you want to feel? Like, and what kind of routine? Like if you want clean oral hygiene, you want clean teeth. You're going to wash your teeth at night or in the morning, right? Yeah. Same thing. If you have a routine in the morning where you're sort of taking time to yourself to kind of take a breather, do some stretches, like have some tea, read something that you enjoy, like instead of just straight away to the phone and just like if like you can imagine a scenario where you in the morning you just go straight to the phone and you just glued like a zombie to your messages, like
I think that's probably most people,
right? So some people have that life, and so and so like I mean you can carve out the kind of life you want to live, and it is a choice.
It is a choice.
It is a choice.
It takes integration, but it's a choice.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It builds momentum, and it becomes a seamless rhythm.
Right.
Yeah.
Second question for you is, what has been the biggest personality change, the biggest shift in your personality over the last 10 years?
Good question. 10 years, yeah. Personality change.